As every single day goes by, we get more and more information about the Superman Legacy movie coming to theaters by James Gunn. And honestly, I've learned to have my expectations really low for things that come out through DC, but I have to say it's hard to do that with James Gunn at the helm of this movie. I mean, when you talk about the most iconic superheroes throughout all of history, you have Spider-Man, Batman, The Flash, Wonder Woman, but one person that obviously stands out among the rest is Superman. When you look at the representation of this character, I have to say he has been getting screwed over for years. And this isn't just something that started in the DCEU, this goes all the way back to like Christopher Reeve's Superman. And with the latest casting decisions that have come to the public eye about the Superman Legacy movie, I thought it would be best for me to come up here and say a couple of things about the previous Supermans and just pray to God that those things are not in this Superman Legacy movie. But before we go any further, you guys make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Press that bell for post notifications as well. If you go back in time and look at a lot of Superman stories in movies and television shows, the idea of what Superman is has completely been lost to the mainstream public. Superman is seen as like this godlike figure and above humanity for some reason. It's because in these films, they have strayed away from the true core identity of what Superman is supposed to be. If you look at these Christopher Reeves movies, I'm not gonna lie, for one, a lot of it is pretty cringe and outdated, but let's start off with this. A lot of what Superman is in those films is just Lois Lane this, Lois Lane that, Lois Lane this, Lois Lane that. His character is very much so tied to Lois Lane in that film, which is the beginning of the problem of a lot of Superman movie issues. Superman's character is so directly tied to his love interest that outside of that, there really isn't anything interesting or relatable about his character. But if you want to give the Christopher Reeve Superman movies some leeway because those are pioneer films, they kind of created the genre, I can give you that. But then explain a show like Smallville, because a show like Smallville is literally about him becoming Superman. And as someone who watched Smallville and enjoyed it for what it was, I can't just deny the fact that a good chunk of the story is him being with Lana or Lois Lane. And I'm not talking about him being in relationships with these people, I'm talking about stories literally being built off of the back of their relationships and his entire character revolving around it. Smallville is 10 seasons long, and a good chunk of the entire show is just Clark going back and forth between him and Lana if he should or shouldn't be with her, and then finally getting with Lois Lane in later seasons. I mean, don't get me wrong, I actually really like the Lois Lane in the Smallville show. That's probably the best adaptation of her so far that we've gotten over the last 10-15 years. But when you talk about how they have damaged the Superman character, look no further than how they have portrayed him and his character basically being reliant on his love interest. And the same thing applies to the Henry Cavill Superman, and there are more issues with that Superman that we're gonna get to in a second, but my goodness, if I told you to describe the Henry Cavill Superman, you really have nothing to say outside of his love for Lois Lane. These kids literally ask Superman, what is your favorite thing about Earth? And he looks off in the distance, which basically implies his love for Lois Lane. I mean, I understand that he loves his girl, but that's literally all we know about Superman in these films. He loves Lois Lane. Now, me personally, I do believe that Man of Steel gets a lot of flack, but one thing that it really does horribly is not give him a character outside of Lois. But that's an issue right out the gate. You cannot have your main character, the core element of the story, have everything centered around his love interest. You cannot relate to somebody like that. Most guys in this world don't even talk to women, much less get them. So to have your main character, Superman of all people, be so intertwined to Lois Lane is just ridiculous to me. Which essentially gets back to my main point that a lot of these writers clearly do not understand the essence of what Superman is supposed to be. Because that then leads into my next point about these films in the past. Superman is portrayed as if he is larger than life, as if he's above humanity, and that couldn't be any further from what Superman actually is. I don't think people understand that Clark Kent is the actual person and Superman is the persona. He was raised Clark Kent before he ever knew he even had the powers to become Superman. When he was growing up, he went through heartbreaks, he went through school, he had friends, living in Smallville with his parents, his father dying. So many things go into who Clark Kent is and how he became Superman. He doesn't save people because he has to, he saves them because he wants to. And in these films, they are missing that core element of Superman. I mean, I understand they were trying to build towards Batman versus Superman in Man of Steel, but the fact that he didn't save any civilians throughout most of that movie is just fucking ridiculous to me. This is Superman. His job is literally to save people, and he's destroying buildings, cars are flying all over the place, people are dying for Christ's sake. And I'm supposed to believe this guy is a hero because he's fighting Zod? Hell, if anything, he's doing Zod's job for him. Should I understand why Batman got beef with this guy? He's a piece of shit. In a lot of these scenes, Superman is going around acting as if he's holier than thou and above humanity, which is the opposite of what Superman is supposed to be. In a lot of these films, Superman cannot solve any problem without creating another one. For example, just look at the ending of Man of Steel. For starters, you got Zod about to kill this family. By the way, this family, move out the way. I mean, look at them, they didn't even try.
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
Superman is then contemplating killing this man, and there's just no other way, so he has to snap his neck. First of all, I understand the story that they're going for here, but oh my god, this was horrible. For starters, this is the opening movie of the DCEU. Why are we already doing Superman killing people this soon? We all know that Superman's core identity is I don't kill. If you want to do a storyline of Superman going on a killing spree and that leads into a character shift, then that's fine. But you don't do that in your first damn movie of your universe. That is so stupid. You're trying to establish the core elements of Superman. You don't start that off with a storyline that goes against that, especially when throughout the whole movie, all we know is that he loves Lois Lane and that he has no problem letting random civilians die just to settle his own personal beef. But then you just look into the common sense of the ending of Man of Steel and oh my god, it is so stupid. You have the ability to break this man's neck and leave a damn shockwave after you do so, all because there was just no other way. But you couldn't cover his face, you couldn't move his damn head, hell, you couldn't have just flown somewhere else. There were so many different things he could have done, but breaking his neck, I guess, was just the only way. And this is a repetitive theme that you see not only in Man of Steel, but even in BVS. Superman genuinely doesn't know how to solve any problem without making it 10 times worse. I mean, shit, when he died in BVS being killed by Doomsday, if I'm the world, I'm celebrating this nigga dying. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna throw a parade. I'm making the day that nigga died a holiday nationally, because more bad than good was done with Superman being in the world, and it should never be that way in these Superman stories. Which lead into my overarching point about this video. James Gunn is no idiot. This is a guy that made the Guardians of the Galaxy a seed to D-list superhero team up to now being a household name in cinema. I would expect a guy like James Gunn to read some superhero comics, get into the actual core details of Superman, and give us a Superman movie that lives up to that, because it's been a long time that we've had some real good representation of Superman in any form of media. And obviously I'm talking about live action here, because when it comes to animation, DC does a fairly good job. Like in the Justice League TV show, I loved Superman there. But unfortunately, television shows are not gonna pull in the market that movies do. If you do things in the movies, people are gonna expect that that's how they're done overall, and those things eventually will bleed into the comics. I mean, hell, just look at Marvel Comics over the last decade. You can't tell me that the popularity of the MCU has not influenced that. So James Gunn, if you're out there, please do not fold on this movie. I am praying this movie succeeds. I am putting high expectations because I trust you to resurrect this dying universe. But that wraps up this video, you guys. Make sure y'all like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.